Welcome to another edition of One on One with Mitch Lafon. This is a special edition. I do another show called Metal Raps that you can find on iTunes, Spreaker, and all the various suspects with Mitch Joel of No Treble's Groove podcast, a podcast all about bass guitar players, and Talking Metal's Mark Strigl. You can find out more about Mark on the talkingmetal.com podcast or website. And we listen, all three of us, we sit around and we talk about the issues of rock going on. But this is episode 24, where we look back at all things great of 2015. We go each and every one of us through our top 5 records or albums of the year. So this one's a little bit different. I will be back with my next episode later this week with another interview. But today, no interview, just 3 talking heads going over the year 2015, our best favorite moments, albums, etc. Here they are, our top 5. This is Metal Raps, episode 24, featuring Mitch Joel, Mark Strigl, and myself. Enjoy.
Well, hey there, and welcome to episode number 24 of Metal Raps. My name is Mitch Joel, and as always, we are joined by Talking Metal's Mark Strigl. Mark, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Mitch?
Great. And of course, we are with Mitch Lafon from One on One with Mitch Lafon. Mitch?
Of course. There's not enough Mitches in this conversation. In fact, I think it should be called the Mitch Lafon One-on-One Mitch Lafon podcast. Just more Mitch.
I think we should just have Mark legally change his name to Mitch Strigl. I think that would be the
Yeah, he should just go by an initial, BM, and then people can just think it's Mitch.
The 3M,
there you go.
3M show, but 3M
Yeah.
is an issue because that's also
You should
copyrighted.
start a
corporation,
festival.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Isn't
All right,
that
guys.
festival named after us, the 3M?
Exactly. But here we are at the end of the year, and of course, as every good, true broadcaster, podcaster, writer, blogger must do, we should talk about the year that has been and perhaps a little bit about the year that's coming forward. But we thought, in the interest of time, we could look at the 5 albums that we thought really rocked our worlds in 2015. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. Like, I don't want to have each person rattle through their 5, but let's start with, what do you think the number 1 album was for you this year? I'm going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Mark Strigl.
We don't want to go backwards, by the way. Start with 5 and build up to our number 1.
We could do that if you want. Okay, let's go backwards.
All right.
Mitch has spoken. Mark, go backwards. What's number 5 for you?
Okay. Well, number 5, and I wanted to start off by saying, I think all 3 of us listen to a lot of different kinds of music. This list that I have come up with is not death metal. It's not hip hop. It's not, straight ahead rock. This is, to me, these are the greatest hard rock / metal records. And when I say metal, more traditional metal in the hard rock sense. So having said that,
You're justifying before you start. I like that.
yeah, you're not going to get I'm not going to say Adele. I'm not even going to say Failure. I'm not going to say Tribulation, which is kind of like a more extreme metal band. I'm keeping this kind of geared towards our listeners, and it's the stuff I love the most too. The hard rock, the heavy metal stuff. So having said that, I'm going to go with number 5. I'm going to go with a great band that I know Mitch Lafon likes too, Mustache. This is a band that continues to blow me away almost every year. These guys put out a record almost every year, and it is almost always awesome. And their record that came out this year, it was no exception. It's called Testosterone. I just minutes ago had a Talking Metal listener email me or face me or whatever they do, message me on Facebook and say, how do you spell mustache? I can't find anything about that band you're always talking about. The spelling Mustasch. And again, the new record, which is quite good, Testosterone. That's my number 5.
All right, number 5, Mitch Lafon.
Yeah, first of all, I'll agree with Mark on that. It's not in my top 5. Mustache, Testosterone made my honorable mentions, as did Joel Hoekstra's 13 and Queensryche Condition Human and stuff. But my number 5, I'm just going to go with a band that I've always enjoyed, And I think they've actually made an album that is a great return to form for them. It mixes the best of hysteria with slang and adrenalize. It is Def Leppard, called Def Leppard. I just think that's an enjoyable album.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is. I just got it on CD, and the songwriting is just incredible. It's a really good listen, and I think you hear stuff that's reminiscent to the old hysteria sound, but there's also some stuff that reminded me like kind of glammy, like T-Rex sound at times. So,
there was some definite Bowie and Queen influence going on in there. Even that song "Man Enough" sounds a little bit like another one, "Bites the Dust." I was going to say another one, "Rides the Bus," but that's whatchamacallit. That's Weird Al Yankovic. That's Weird Al Yankovic's version of it. But no, listen. Every day I go for a walk around the block and stuff, and I just find that that's a very nice album to have in the ears. It's uplifting. It's fun. It puts a smile on my face. And Def Leppard, like a lot of the other bands, whether it's Kiss or whatever, have put out albums that are so in the last few years. And this one, had it been released in 1989, probably would have had 3 top 10 singles, big world tour. So hey, props to Def Leppard for having done something really worth listening to.
In my number 5, I'm going to go with Iron Maiden, The Book of Souls. I think the band, they sort of come and go with that sort of sound. Then they always stick to their sound. Then they go in places and change it up a little bit, add some stuff, take away other things. I thought Book of Souls was a really strong Iron Maiden album. And I say that with a hint of surprise because I was really – I had set the bar kind of low. I thought the band can just tour. I don't really need new music from them anymore. The legacy's the legacy. They've got enough. They can just go. And for me, the fact that they put in the effort, all things considered, when I say that, I mean, of course, Bruce Dickinson's health and things that were going on with his throat. I think Book of Souls for me, number 5, was an amazingly great record for 2015 if you like the Maiden. And I like the Maiden. Ooh. I like the Air Raid Siren. I can't go wrong. Let's switch to number 4. Strigl, what do you got?
Number 4, and again, I don't know if this truly qualifies as metal. It's definitely hard rock. It has a commercial element about it, but it's such a great album. And this is a guy that's on Mitch's show a lot. He's on my show a lot. I know him, and honestly, I'm not just saying this because he's my friend, and I'm saying this because this album is just incredible. It's called Little Brother is Watching, and it's by Bumblefoot. The guitar playing aside, his singing and songwriting on this record is the best that it has ever been, and I guess it's somewhat public knowledge. He did tell me that when I was hanging out with him the other night that there's a number of songs on this record, including the epic Argentina, which is one of the highlights of the record for me, that he wrote for Axl. Nothing ever became of it with Guns, and so he just recorded his own version and put it out on this record. But such a great record, the title track amazing, and Argentina, Living the Dream, so many great songs on this record, and I haven't heard many people talking about it.
I was going to say, I feel like a bad co-host because I haven't even listened to that album, so I took a little note down here to check it out for sure after the show. I'm going to do that. Mitch, what do you have?
Listen to the first 3 or 4 songs. It's just a really incredible listen.
Looking forward to it. Mitch, what do you have at number 4?
I'm going to go with a band that is the future of rock music in terms of dirty, gritty rock. Out of Atlanta, if you go on YouTube, you can see them covering some Cheap Trick song and some Kiss songs and all kinds of stuff. But their album, Electric Blood by The Biters. Great album. It really blends everything from the 1970s together, whether it's Kiss or Cheap Trick or Aerosmith, and then it delivers it with a 2015 oomph. It's just a great debut album, by the way. And The Biters, Electric Blood. So that's number 4 for me.
I'm loving this. We don't have a lot of crossover yet, so this is exciting for me. I'm taking lists. I feel like Santa right now. Number 4 for me, I feel like I'm the heavy guy. I like this. I'm going with Lamb of God, 7, Sturm und Drang. obviously just thrilled that these guys were able to pull it together and make something happen out of the chaos that became their lives, their careers, and the big question marks that came after an insanely strange and surreal story that I think really shook the metal world at its core. But this band, to me, they're not young kids, and even as their music progresses, I really felt like Lamb of God was the heir apparent to the Metallica throne in terms of not the commerciality of it, but the sort of heaviness, like being at the pinnacle of heavy music. And to me, this album just was absolutely great. Love the music, love the pounding of it, and a great soundtrack if you have to go to the dentist. That's what I'll say about that. Right. Let's shift over
great
to
record. Yeah, I'm with you. Really good.
Great album. Let's shift over to number 3. I'm gonna play some ping pong and throw it over to Mitch Lafon for number 3.
Oh, there you go. Catch me off guard. I'm gonna go over to Sweden for number 3 for a band.
I'm surprised it took so long.
I know. I've only got one Swedish band on the list, but a band that's gotten back together with their guitarist Dragan, the Backyard Babies with 4x4. There is just an incredible amount of cowbell on this album, and you can never go wrong with cowbell. In fact, more cowbell, the better. So Backyard Babies, 4x4, a band that I would certainly love to see in North America, either playing festivals or playing some club shows. I just need to see this band. And this album is great from top to bottom. There's not one throwaway song on it. Backyard Babies, 4x4.
Mark Strigl, what do you got at number 3?
Number 3, I'm going to go with Armored Saint. Win hands down. Really, really strong record. Surprised at really how great this record is. I've liked Armored Saint ever since the March of the Saint record back in the day. I can still remember where I bought that for the first time when it came out. But yeah, these guys are such pros, and John Bush, who is now
great singer.
He's now become like this top voiceover artist, and he makes probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a year doing that. He probably doesn't really need to even do any music anymore, but he does. And wow, this record is just awesome. Great stuff.
I love the choice because I'm such a huge fan of John Bush. Even in the Anthrax days, I thought he was a great. At the time, he wasn't even an interim singer. Everyone thought that was the future of Anthrax. I just think an amazing.
He did like
singer.
4 records with them, I think. Yeah,
and just that Armored Saint stuff. I'm with you. Where I think Armored Saint was one of those bands where if you were into Metallica, Armored Saint was like the perfect partner for those records. If you wanted sort of something different and not exactly the same, Armored Saint was just always there, delivering so consistently. Totally agree with you on that one. My number 3, I'm going to go with Ghost. And again, I don't even know how to pronounce this album. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody pronounce it right. I'm going to go with Meliora. But just the only word, when I think of Ghost, the only word I think of is quirky. I just think they're quirky in their visual presentation, in their live presentation, even just I think listening to the album in and of itself is a great experience. It's not the whole experience. You sort of need the whole package. But the fact that the album stands up on its own is so memorable. And the truth is, for me, when I think of Ghost, I'm just happy because it feels like something exciting is happening in metal, that it's not just more of the same and let's hope the genre comes back, but they're in that sort of quirky place where it's got this sort of 70s porn weird counterculture vibe to them. So I'm going with Ghost for my number 3. Let's shift to number 2. We're getting close to the end here. Number 2, what do you got, Mitch Lafon?
Well, again, I'm going with albums that I enjoyed that made my walks better. The Scorpions Return to Forever. However, the deluxe edition with 19 songs on it, the 12-song version is just not enough. I just loved this album. It started off, the band was going to go back through their vaults and put out a collection of demos and have this sort of final demo thing. And then they thought, hey man, these songs are great. Let's just re-record them. Some of the songs date back from the Savage Amusement days and so on and so forth. They made a couple of new songs on top of that. I just think it's a fun album. And it put me on my Scorpions kick for this year. I wasn't in the Scorpions mood for the last 5 years, and this one put me dead
You're deep in the
centered.
rabbit hole.
Oh, deep in the rabbit hole on everything Scorpions. I spent my time on the
And money.
Discogs website picking up all the different, CD singles that I had never bought, and going to concerts, and no, this one reignited the passion for all things German and Scorpions.
In spirit of that choice, Mitch, I'm going to go back and do some due diligence and listen to Savage and Music, which I probably haven't heard since the second week after it came out. So I'm going to go back for you and do that.
Get the deluxe edition that just came out. It's great. We got to talk about those reissues at some point too. They did some great work on the 8 Scorpions albums.
And if you don't believe anything we're saying, just follow Mitch on Facebook. You can see all his little pictures of all these CDs that you just will want to own at one point. Mark, what do you have?
We are number 2, right? I'm gonna go with the Book of Souls by Iron Maiden for number 2. Just a excellent listen. I bought the
crossover alert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I bought the Japan edition, which I don't even know what the difference is, but it came with a whole book and 2 CDs, and I just this weekend I was doing some driving. I listened to it, both CDs all the way through. I would say every song except maybe one isn't awesome. It's such a great listen, and I think I hear different elements from Maiden's career in there. I hear like some songs that have real, Killers vibe, others that sound
some
more
Peace of Mind stuff in there,
Yeah, it's
there
also,
is.
It really is refreshing and kind of unexpected. I think you said that, Mitch, too. And one of the reasons for me it was unexpected is because Final Frontier was a good record, but it wasn't a great record. And the Book of Souls is a great record.
Great record, yeah.
Great stuff. So nice to see these old men out there freaking delivering just potent rock and roll.
So love it too. My number 2 is going to go to. You guys can debate whether it's metal or not. I think these guys are metal. Coheed and Cambria, The Color Before the Sun. I know a lot of people who are deep fans of this band and probably don't love this album as much as the other stuff. And I'm okay with that. I just felt that in the swath of music that came out in 2015, not only was this an underlooked album, and I think mostly because fans who love the band probably thought it was, not as great as their other stuff. I just thought, top to bottom, great listen, fun listen. If you've never checked the band out, I do think it's a great introduction. It's different. It's not what you think it might be, but just an amazingly great album. And again, I don't even know if we're going to call it. Would you guys consider them metal? Like I would, but you don't.
I would like more progressive. I mean,
like alternative-y?
Yeah, like an alternative-y thing. I mean, some of that earlier stuff even had like an emo vibe at times. But I definitely, they're one of those bands that's hard to pinpoint because you hear metal influences.
Yeah, totally.
You hear punk influences. You hear progressive rock influences. You hear emo influences. So, much like... and they don't sound anything like this, but much like a Black Veil Brides where it's kind of hard to pinpoint what they actually are. Coheed and Cambria is a similar thing. It's very hard to say what they are. So if you want them to be metal, then I would say they're metal.
All right. I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with that. So I'm going to do my little drum roll for number 1. I'm not a drummer, more bass player. Number 1, Mitch Lafon. What do you got?
Number 1.
With a bullet.
With a bullet. Can I give you a quick reissue and live album pick first and then get to number 1, or do we want to get straight to it?
Let's go straight to it, and then we can sort of go like an adjunct albums that should have been
honorable
mentioned
mentions.
or we like.
Yeah, I got a few honorable mentions. All right. My number 1 album for 2015, and by best I mean brought me the greatest joy. It is the one, the only American and UK band, the Black Star Riders with The Killer Instinct. Yes, the deluxe version, because it also has extra tracks. So Black Star Riders, The Killer Instinct. They did the right thing a couple of years ago by not calling themselves Thin Lizzy and recording these songs. They changed the name. It added a new credence to the whole thing. And it's just a great album. I spent months walking up and down these streets over here with that in my earbuds, and I could do it again all of next summer. It's just that great of an album.
Totally unexpected.
The songwriting. Yeah, the songwriting is just so incredible.
It's great.
Great pick.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's impressive for me. I didn't think you were going to go there, and you went there. All right, let's pass it over to you, Mark Strigl. What is your number one pick for 2015?
I'm going to go with the Ghost record.
Oh
And
yeah,
again, the pronunciation I always have trouble with too with all their records, but Meliora, I believe, is how we're saying it here.
just
But
call it
yeah, it's just,
melanoma, or I don't know.
the record, and a lot of people, Mitch Lafon, you've said this, Eddie Trunk has said this, Kerry King has said this. They don't get it or they don't like it,
Can't get behind it.
they can't
I
get behind it.
cannot.
And I understand that because it is a different thing, and I read somebody on Metal Sucks writing a editorial about that if they would just change their singer, which I thought was so absolutely ridiculous, because if they just change their singer, they would sound more like a normal metal band, but the
Hire
Beatlesque-
Sebastian Bach.
yeah, the Beatlesque vocals and the songwriting and they definitely have some alternative stuff that comes in there. These guys have come from all different types of music, but I do believe that this is a metal record, and I think I just couldn't stop playing it. I played it all year long. I love every single song on the record. I know the words to every single song, and there aren't a lot of bands that make me feel this way anymore. I love going to see them live and seeing 15-year-old goth girls mixed with 60-year-old Deep Purple fans all together, just embracing this. It's a movement. These guys have a movement going, and when I wear my shirts out and my sweatshirt, everywhere I go, I get people from all walks of life coming up to me and saying Ghost, and you feel like you're in this little club,
Secret club. It's so true.
The Ghost
that
Club.
no one else,
have
and it is
posters on your bedroom wall too?
not yet. I don't know if my wife will.
He
go
puts
for
them on his kids' bedroom wall just to scare them at night.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah. And they have this Rosemary's Baby, crazy satanic panic from the late 60s, early 70s vibe that gets thrown in there that makes it extra fun, and this whole backstory. But all that aside, I just think the music is absolutely incredible, and they stepped out without a real major producer this time. They didn't have Nick Ruskulansky or whatever that guy's name is, or Dave Grohl producing them this time. They stepped out kind of on their own and had some guy Klaus Allund or something producing them, who I've never heard of, but they did an excellent job with this new record, and love these guys. Most exciting thing for me personally going on in rock in years.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I mean, look, I definitely dished my dirt on Ghost earlier as choosing them for number 3 for me. I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't get. It is one of those things where it almost takes a couple listens to understand it. You got to dive in a little bit, but when you do, there's a quirkiness to it. And I can tell you, early days of hearing early Motley Crue, and again, it's hard to frame it now, so many years later, but there was something really off about them. People thought they sucked, and if you got it, you got it, and you were in. And for me, hearing Ghost and hearing their albums really brings me back to that feeling of there's something like weird about the fact that I liked Motley Crue when I liked Motley Crue, and I think that Ghost really manages to capture that inside of me for sure. My number one was already mentioned earlier. My choice is Queensryche, Condition Human. I've been talking about this album nonstop. You're probably sick of me talking about it on this show. I just feel like again, complete shock. I just didn't think the band had it in them. I figured they're going to go out there with their new singer who sounds exactly like Jeff Tate and just kill it with great, just sounding like early Queensryche, which is, I think, what a lot of people, including myself, wanted almost. But hearing Condition Human really just put me back in stream and actually it sunk me down a huge rabbit hole where I was checking out all of the earlier music. And I don't think there's been a year in my life where I've listened to Queensryche's Rage for Order more than this year, specifically because of Condition Human. And to me, that was the direct lineage of my love for that band. I mean, I always loved Queensryche, but Rage for Order just put me in a whole other crazy place. And obviously Operation Mindcrime beyond that was great as well. But I thought Condition Human was by far and away for me the best rockin' album this year, which would mean that our three number ones for this year would be Queensryche, Ghost, and Black Star Riders. And to be
Correct.
honest, if I were to look at those three, I'd say that's a pretty awesome slate of hard music to check out if you have not spent time or enough time with those bands.
Yeah, I agree. Queensryche, Condition Human, great record, one of the best of the year. And Rage for Order, just as a side note, would probably be in my top 10 favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, I'm with
any
you.
type of music. I'm talking the Beatles and
I'm with you.
Prince and everything else. Any type of music. Yeah,
I can never tire of that album.
It's amazing. So good.
Never tired. So there were other albums. There were some other things that were in our lives, maybe concerts, maybe moments. And I think I would feel empty if we just left on 5 albums. There's other things that have happened in the world. I'll throw it to you, Mitch. What were like the sort of 1 or 2 things? It could be another album. It could be an extended. It could be a live show. It could be an event. What were 1 or 2 things for you that made 2015 so awesomely heavy?
Well, listen, I actually had prepared a top 15 list. So I have a lot of honorable mentions, but I'll just throw out a few that deserve mentioning. Joel Hoekstra, who's of course a guitarist with Whitesnake, had Joel Hoekstra's 13 Dying to Live. Totally unexpected how great that was. If you listen to his other solo albums, they're sort of like these guitar doodle things. And this one's like a real band, and great album right there. Another band that came out of nowhere was Nilsson, believe it or not, with an album Peace Out. Whoever thought that Nelson would be cool in 2015, right?
Did they say, hold on a second, didn't they say this was the last album they were going to do, though?
Yeah, this was going to be their last one, but it's a great return to form. I think a lot of us forgot about Revolution Saints that came out in January. I thought that was a fun...
I didn't. I had it on my list, but I ditched it for obvious reasons.
Right, exactly. And I'll give you like 3 more, and then I'll give you my favorite reissue, and then we'll move along. Bullet Boys, Elefante, another surprise. I just think my top 5 are that much better. Imperial State Electric with Honk Machine, guys from the Helicopters, another great Swedish band, and then of course we have to mention Queensryche, Condition Human. Just the honorable mentions for me are all these albums where we just didn't have any expectations. We went, oh yeah, Queensryche has a new album. Oh yeah, Joel's doing an album. And then they surprised the heck out of us with these really, really fantastic albums, right? So we'll do that. And then I'll finish with my favorite reissue. Every year we have deluxe reissues and remasters and this and that. Scorpions had 8 albums come out in 2015, but the prize out of the 8 albums is Tokyo Tapes. They added a whole bunch of bonus tracks to them, and then a bonus DVD of the band live in 1979, pro shot, cleaned up, the whole kit and caboodle. It is just stunning to watch. I mean, that band in 79 is not what you knew from Rock You Like a Hurricane. This was a different band, and it's just a great performance. If you can't pick up all 8, start off with Tokyo Tapes. And of course, favorite festival, Heavy Montreal. You got to throw that in there.
So Mitch just destroyed my idea of 2, but Mark, keep it calm.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I just wanted to mention a couple other records real quickly. I mean, you guys mentioned Black Star Riders, The Killer Instinct, Queensryche, Condition Human. I love both those. It was very hard for me not to put those in the top 5, but I didn't. They're definitely in my top 10. Symphony X had a great record out, Underworld. There is a band called Fozzy who have a record called Do You Want to Start a War? And it actually came out in 2014. I didn't discover it until 2015. If it would have come out this year, it would have been in my top 5 for sure, because I listened to that record probably more than anything except after Ghost. Ghost I listened to more than anything, but that's probably second for what I listened to the most. And again, that's Fozzy, Do You Want to Start a War? It's from 2014 though. Other honorable mentions, Andrew Watt, who played with Jason Bonham and Glenn Hughes in California Breed, has a solo EP out, which is just off the hook. Hard rock / pop. It's just great stuff. Ghost in My Head, 4 of the greatest songs of the year on that EP. Great guitar player, great pop rock type of thing. Some of the guys from Queens of the Stone Age helping him out on that. Yeah, and Art of Anarchy. We just lost Scott Whalen last week, and it caused me to go back and revisit the album he did with Bumblefoot and a bunch of other guys called Art of Anarchy. There was a lot of controversy when it came out because of
He claimed he wasn't in the band.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and it was negative stuff. But since he passed last week, I've been listening to that record like nonstop, and there is some great stuff on it. And if you're a fan of Bumblefoot, you're a fan of just good old straight ahead hard rock, you're a fan of Scott Whalen, go check this record out because it is really good. And I think some of the negativity may have overshadowed the greatness of the record. And real quick, some of my favorite concerts of the year: Judas Priest with Mastodon, great double bill. Def Leppard and Styx with Tesla was a great memory for me. AC/DC, Generation Kill with Bumblefoot and Daryl McDaniels, jamming with them, and of course hanging out with you guys and seeing all the great music up at Heavy Montreal.
Yeah, so listen, I think you're going to see why the three of us enjoy spending time together talking about hard rock and heavy metal. My two albums that sort of were right there, and I really was sort of battling with myself as we were hitting the record button, was Slayer and Fear Factory. Contentious albums for sure. I know people who are, look, if you're a heavy fan of Slayer or Fear Factory, they can never do right after the legacy, and I get that. But if you put that aside and just put them on as metal albums, wow, Slayer's Repentless and Fear Factory's Genexus were just really, really great. And I think Mitch said, really a band that's able to keep up with the young kids. So I just love that. Again, two things that happened this year. One is very fresh in my memory. Mark, you just spoke about that, which is just Scott Whelan passing away. Tough one for me. I mean, I have really strong memories of hearing the first album, second album, third albums, specifically, and vivid moments of where I was, exact moments in time. And I was actually really touched, Mark, by what you posted on Facebook about where you were the first time you heard the band. I had a really similar stories. Like I was at Foundations Forum doing a lot of writing for, if you remember that whole Space Foundation Forum and Concrete Management, doing stuff them and hearing that. Really, before anybody, they were going to be doing some promotions with them and thinking, wow, this is like everything I was hoping for as a hard rock fan, because it was not the Seattle scene. It was from Los Angeles. It had something different. It had a touch of the hard rock stuff, but still a hint of what was new. And I just felt that there was something very magical there. And I've been a fan of that band for a long, long, long time. And just it's always hard for me because I'm not somebody who really even drinks or does that drugs or anything like that. And so just seeing that life go away is just really, really tough. And I think it's going to be something on my brain for a long time. And then, I'll wrap up, I think, everything in a very pretty bow as we head into the holiday season by saying that for sure, Heavy Montreal, massive highlight for me, not because of the music, but because of the fact that the three of us got to hang out, talk, and just really enjoy music. And to me, it really brought me back to being younger, where I thought it wasn't just about going to see a band and thinking whether it was cool or not, but it was the experience of being amongst friends and peers. And it's going to be very memorable for me. And I don't know what we're going to do this year at Heavy Montreal. We're going to have to make it count, because the first one, hanging out with all three of us, was pretty amazing. So
definitely, yeah, agree.
Great time. Happy holidays to everybody. We love doing this. We'll be back really soon with Metal Raps number 25. And
there you go.
For here on out, enjoy your holiday season. You can always find me on Twitter at @MitchJoel, or check out my bass playing podcast, which is available at notreble.com/podcast. It's called Groove. Brand new episode just went live this week, and I think fans of this show will like this bass player because it's Stuart Ham, who is in and of himself an amazing bass player, but well known for his work with Steve Vai, well known for his work with Joe Satriani, Frank Gambale, and many others, and just an amazingly wicked bass player. Mark, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, talkingmetal.com is probably the best place, and there's links up there to all my social media and everything else. And of course, we have all the Talking Metal podcasts, as well as one-on-one with Mitch Lafon and Metal Raps. It's all right there on talkingmetal.com.
Love it. Mitch.
There you go. You can find me on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, and I'll just end on this. First of all, it was great hanging out with everybody at Heavy Montreal, but I want to see in 2016 the David Lee Roth Eat 'Em and Smile 30th anniversary tour. with Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, Greg Bissonette, and all that. There are rumors that they'll be doing 5, 6, 7 shows. I hope it turns into a 85 date tour. So that's what I'm looking forward going into 2016.
It'd be amazing.
Man, okay, listen. I think the three of us agree that is one of the greatest albums and bands in hard rock, for sure. For me, love that tour. If it happens, heavy Montreal or not, we should find a way by hook or crook to get the three of us in a venue at one of those shows. Because I can't imagine that rolling through a town and me sitting in another city thinking, hopefully they'll come to mind. That we might have to get very proactive on that tour.
It's a date.
Oh, it's a date. And listen, if they are offered to any promoter in Montreal, make them come. It's got to happen. But I think Yankee Rose is the greatest Van Halen song they never recorded.
I agree. I just Shy Boy. I mean, just that I could literally listen. That's one of my. You talk about the 10. That's one of mine right there. For sure, that's one of my 10. I love that
cuts
album.
On that too, like Ladies Night in Buffalo.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's such a fun, short, quick, just killer album. Would love to see that.
Yep.
All right, boys. Well, happy holidays to one and all, and we'll be back really soon with another episode of Metal Raps.
And there you have it, folks. Mitch, Joel, Mark Strigl, and myself putting together episode 24 of Metal Raps. This was the special one-on-one with Mitch Lafon version of it. Certainly hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you agreed with my picks for best album of 2015. Before I let you go, let me remind you that I have a pair of tickets to give away to Black Sabbath on February 23rd, 2016 at the Bell Centre in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Just head over to my Facebook page, One-on-One Mitch Lafon. Write me a quick letter telling me why you would like to win the tickets to the show. Make sure you like the page, which is an important part of the whole process. There you go. 2 tickets for Black Sabbath. There's a giveaway. It, of course, doesn't include accommodations, travel, or other expenses. It is just the pair of tickets. A little disclaimer right there. Certainly hope you enjoyed Metal Raps episode 24, the best of 2015. Please stay with me for more one-on-one with Mitch Lafon and some exciting interviews. I've got some great ones coming up. Bye for now.